hello everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is Emelie. I work for CBAMBOO, which is a company completely focused on CBAM, as Simon just said. I'm going to run through a few different things that I hope will be of your interest. You're here, after all. So a little bit about CBAM. I think you are kind of up to speed, maybe if you watched that video. If not, I'll take a few steps back and introduce it completely as well. A little bit about how the EU CBAM will affect you, and probably already is. An update on UK CBAM, and a little bit about us as well. So a very quick introduction. Is this a bit of a scary photo? So what is CBAM? Well, it's the biggest carbon law in Europe's history. It's one of the biggest ones in the world, really. And it's also kind of a revolution in trade and supply chain, because it's affecting those things in a way that we haven't seen that much before. And it's also, unfortunately, quite a complicated and big tax on carbon. Unfortunately, maybe is the wrong word. I think many people think it is unfortunate, but it does have a good cause if you zoom out a bit. So in 2026, the EU will phase out free allowances, which creates a risk of carbon leakage. Now, to understand that, I think I'm just going to kind of break that up into 4 different portions. So first of all, what are free allowances? Well, the EU has something called the Emissions Trading System, ETS, which requires companies to pay for their emissions. But the EU has also given out a lot of free allowances. This is to protect EU industries from cheaper, high-emission imports, and also protect or prevent production from moving abroad to avoiding that. So carbon leakage then occurs when this happens, so production moves elsewhere. And also when companies are replaced by more polluting imports, and which really in the long term undermines the efforts of reducing global emissions, which is what the EU wants to do with this regulation. So what is CBAM then? Well, CBAM is a policy. A lot of people hate it, but it's here regardless what we think of it. And it applies to the carbon price of imported goods like steel, cement, aluminium, electricity. And it's there to ensure that foreign producers pay the same or face the similar costs as producers in the EU. So it's leveling out the playing field, and also the long-term thing is to achieve those goals that the EU wants to achieve. So then what's changing in 2026? Well, then the EU will phase out these free allowances, meaning all companies must pay for their carbon emissions. Not initially from the start of 2026, you're going to have to pay, or EU businesses are going to have to pay for a part of it, and then it increases over the coming 9 years, leading to in 2034, EU businesses need to pay for all of it. So a little bit of a timeline. Even though I hope all of you have heard about CBAM before, the real CBAM actually starts in January 2026. So we've been in something called a transitional period from 2023 to 2025, where EU businesses have had to report quarterly, they've had to connect with their supply chain to get emissions data throughout the entire supply chain. And they've also had to become authorized. They have to do that right now. If they're not authorized come 2026, they can't import anything into the EU. So the definitive period is starting in January, and it is definitive, so ongoing infinitely. The biggest change, if I'm to summarize it, is the purchasing of CBAM certificates. This means that EU businesses need to buy certificates for everything that they're importing, and they need to surrender those certificates. Really what it is a tax. It's something they have to pay for. And another thing which affects you a bit more, maybe some of you have businesses or entities in the EU as well, but if you're, for the ones that are based in the UK solely, you as a supplier also needs to get verified. So up until now, the data that you submit to your EU customers has been kind of up to you to submit. Maybe you've taken help from companies to do that, but if you haven't, it's just kind of submitting that and sending it over. But come next year, it needs to be verified by a third party to make sure that it's correct. So how does this affect you? Because once again, you're here because you're UK companies, first and foremost. You might recognize this. So this is what you've had to do and what you still need to do. Assessing the production processes that you have, monitoring the emissions that you have, attribute those to different production processes and CBAM goods, connect with your supply chain, getting precursor or input material emissions, reporting on that, and then also sharing that with your customer. And like I said, the big change in this for next year is that it needs to be verified. But like I said, the main thing also from next year is that CBAM becomes a tax. This tax is based on a lot of different metrics, but to keep it simple, it's whatever that company has imported, the volume, times the embedded direct emissions, times the CBAM price, which is the average weekly ETS price, and if any carbon price has been paid anywhere else, you can subtract that. We at CBAMBOO help companies kind of understand that because it is really tricky. There's a lot of data points and a lot of information. So this is a little snapshot from our platform, a little teaser for you. Worth saying as well, this big orange box to the left, actually, you don't have to, or EU businesses doesn't have to pay for this until 2027. But in 2027, they need to pay for what they imported in 2026. So even though you don't have to pay for it, now you have to keep track of it. And the reason why this has been delayed, because I think many people might think, okay, it's delayed, that means CBAM isn't happening, it's not important. It's actually the opposite. The European Commission wants to give companies more time. I think they also want to give themselves more time. They suggested to push this date to 2027 instead, together with a few other changes. And this got a really big consensus. It's called the omnibus, like a change to a regulation. And there's a really strong political consensus behind this, and therefore also behind the CBAM in general. So some key takeaways to summarize kind of CBAM in general is that even though it feels like a reporting regime, it's actually a tax. It's the main thing. Even though companies have to report, and that's annoying and something you don't want to have to do, the tax is the main thing. Secondly, CBAM relates to the weight and not the value of goods, which actually makes it more targeted, more true to the actual emissions. Biggest impacts, this is why I think you probably know about CBAM, because it affects you. Taxes will also come in at year one, well, year two, I guess, 2027, and then rise due to this free allowance formula. And also, CBAM is a pricing system, so we'll probably see a lot of ripple effects down both to customers, to end consumers, and through the supply chain, because this tax has to come from somewhere. And it's also very likely that other regions will follow, which is a great segue to the UK CBAM. So a UK CBAM doesn't actually reduce bureaucracy, it duplicates it. So currently this is what it looks like, right? You have to send your emissions to the EU customers who declare it. With a UK CBAM, that goes the other way around as well. So then you will have to do the importing declaration in the UK, but you also still have to send your emissions to the EU. So it's like, and imagine then on an even bigger global scale that it's like all these different CBAMs everywhere. So some key facts, just to kind of look at if we start on the right-hand side, the scope of goods is about the same. The only difference is electricity is not included, probably not going to be included in the UK CBAM. The de minimis rule as well, so what companies are affected, changes from importing 50 tons per year to anyone that imports goods over 50,000 pounds. And then the main thing, well, a big change actually to this is that it's a possible linkage between there might be a possible linkage between the EU and UK ETS, so what the carbon price is going to be. There was a discussion about this just a couple of weeks ago. And if this happens, that means that actually the CBAM tax will be waived between the two, between EU and UK. It's still a lot up in the air. A decision could also not come until like a few years' time. You never know with politics and policy. But if it happens, that's a really, really big save for a lot of UK businesses, actually estimated to be about 800 million quid in carbon taxes saved if this happens. So it's a step down the right line, but it's not final yet. So a little bit about CBAMBOO. What do we do? Well, we help companies optimize carbon taxes. Everything really, from reporting, from everything you need to do, compliance really on a quarterly and soon to come yearly basis, to connecting with your supply chain, which is a huge part of this as well. I haven't really even touched on that because that's the biggest part. I am the customer success lead at the company, so I work with all of our customers. The biggest challenge is for companies to connect with their supply chain and get the right data. I'm sure you recognize this as well. So we help with that. We have something called a CBAMBOO network where you can get this data directly from your suppliers. Your suppliers can share that on the platform, and everything is just neatly, tightly put together instead of working with Excel templates from the European Commission. And our customers have seen a really good results from this. We have one client that has achieved a 94% CBAM data compliance rate. 100% is not required here, I should say. It should be over 80%. And this customer has managed to connect with their entire supply chain, about 130 direct suppliers. It was 94% in October last year, up to 97 now in January. So it's steadily going up, which is really nice to see. And I think that's down to a lot of our platform and the work that we do, and of course that they do as well. And finally, help with a lot of this financial planning. So for our EU businesses, our EU customers, this is happening very soon. For the UK businesses, for all of you, there won't be this transitional period that's been now. It's going straight into the definitive period actually in 2027. So the financial planning and costs and understanding that is going to come quite soon. 2027 is both far away and quite near. So yeah, that's what we do. We help you take control of CBAM. Very happy for you to sign up to our newsletter or book a demo with us or just sign up for free even to our platform. We don't have that much time today, but my colleague is here as well if you want to chat to us or just connect with us later on. Thank you so much. Any questions by there or no? No questions.